live.
Alrighty. I can even see myself at the YouTube stream. All right, cool. Hello, dear all, and to those. Alrighty. I can even see myself at the. All right, now the action should be gone. So, hello, dear all, those who see us live and those who are viewing this as a recording. This very unique Portainer community event that I'm pleased to host today. We do these every other month, so make sure to subscribe to the channel meanwhile, so you don't miss on the next one. Thanks to you everyone for joining, and let me announce that first, we have some awesome Portainer swag to give out as usual we have in these events. Andrew, could you give me a hand and show that? I hope it should be live on stream now. Yeah, so these awesome bits of swag would be able to give it away for the best question on the topic, handpicked by our experts in the end of the stream. So as I can see now, Francesco will not receive his pack of the swag because he already got one, and this looks freaking amazing. Thanks, Francesco, for showing that. So to submit your question, just post it on Twitter and tag Portainer.io in it. And we'll keep an eye on Twitter just in case. And in the end, each of our guests will pick the questions which they did like the most. And to those people, we'll send out this fact. So we'll get in touch with you and it will get rolling. So now, let's give the warm welcome to our today guests. Let me introduce them one by one. First, in the top right corner, it's Neil, who is our CEO of Portainer, and he knows Edge upside down from enterprise to individual use, literally everything. And just a side hustle, yeah, he is a CEO of Portainer. Neil, why don't you say hi to us?
Hello, and excited to be in this live stream. It's pretty cool. I like to say I know Edge from start to edge, but just pun intended. but yeah, excited to show off the new features we've got today, and excited to talk about the Intel collab that's been going on for a few years now. So yeah, very cool.
Awesome. You can follow Neil on Twitter to get his views, ideas, and any kind of help on tech topics. So he is active, quite active there. I bet we'll send the Twitter into the chat, so that will you'll be able to have a link in there. And next up, Francesco, who is I think is our delightful community gem, and really we appreciate him at Portainer as a side hustle. He is a developer advocate at daily.dev, and I'd say he is the man who is so active on Twitter and in tech content making that I literally every day question myself whether he has a twin who does all of the work for him. So Francesco, how are you today?
Hey, Dimko, I'm here because I wanted to listen to that statement that I am a delightful gem of the community. Thank you. So my job here is done. Thank you so much for inviting me. We have been already collaborating sometimes. I don't have any twins, but I have some clones, so they are helpful sometimes. I'm here because I'm really looking forward, because I want to see what we have to discuss about. So we'll have some, I don't want to make any spoiler, let's say, but I like that you say like Neil in the top right corner. It sounds like a box match. So keep going that. Thank you so much for inviting.
All right, cool. Awesome to hear you. And we'll drop your Twitter as well in the chat. So get ready for some awesome followers. Do we have Brian with us with the webcam?
Not yet. It will be coming on shortly. You just have me audio at the moment.
All right. So let me just introduce you then. So Brian is a principal platform architect from Intel who works specifically on Edge. So our event is dedicated to what this man has suggested us to do, and we'll discuss that in a second. So he's the man behind the technical side, what we are going to discuss. You good today, Brian?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm happy to be here. This is very exciting. I love what Portainer's doing, and I'm full-on supportive of their direction and deployment of their Edge technology.
Awesome to hear that. So we'll drop Brian's LinkedIn in the chat as well, I think, and we also dropped a GitHub repo, which is very important to get rolling. Not a repo, but a profile, I bet, to understand what Brian is all about. We also have Andrew today with us, the man with the swag. I don't know if you'd be able to see him on the stream, but nevertheless, I'm so happy that he is taking care of every technical detail required to make this community event happen today. So he's our awesome senior community manager. So welcome, Andrew, and we'll also drop his Twitter in the comments.
Cool. Thanks, guys. Yep. Add your comments to the chat, and I'll help them get into the stream.
All right. Awesome. And of course, there is me, Dimko, and I'm a developer advocate at Portainer. And I'll be gratefully hosting our event today, so don't hesitate to write anything in the chat. I'll be happy to road all of these questions and remarks to our expert crew on board today. You can find me on Twitter as well, which we'll get into the chat as well. So once we are happy with everyone on board, let's just introduce the topic. So anyway, what are we going to talk about today? Living on the edge, it says. So it's a very broad space, as I would judge it. From the robots to thousands of retail machines to light bulb sensors covering the whole city infrastructure in terms of the lightning. All of that is Edge, and it is even my washing machine is now an Edge device. So, Brian, are you with us?
I am, good sir.
All right, sir. So please talk to us. What is Edge? How do you define that?
Well, I know this is, I always go a little bit deeper into this, but to me, really, the Edge is really defined by the separation of what you can do in the cloud and what can be done closer to things that are human interactions and analog world, turning it into digital infrastructure. So I know this is a little rambling. Let me say it this way. The Edge is really defined by the cost of which it is to send the data back up to the cloud. If you had, there's WAN and LAN. If there was no separation of WAN and LAN, would there really be an Edge? Everything would be interconnected, one big LAN, right? Would there be something called cloud or not? Really, this is the thing where I want to take all my interaction of things and devices that, as me as a human, capture that information, translate it into something that turns into, to make my life better, or the businesses want to turn that into captured dollars and trying to focus different ads to you, etc. Or if I'm in a vehicle, how can that make that my things better? So this is pretty much the Edge, turning that world of physical interaction of in an analog world and consuming that as a digital input, sending it all the way back up to the cloud.
Perfect. I have some more questions your way. So first off, how did you find us? How did you came across Portainer? And I understand that you were like the one who got both companies together. You made that connection. How was that? How was the story?
Well, early on, actually, I was so opposed to containers. I felt like, I was being sold something that truly wasn't what it is. And start diving into it, and then you start discovering, oh, well, this is really, is this virtualization? Is it not virtualization? No, it's not. And in the forums, what started coming up quite a bit was Portainer. Portainer was that thing that sort of made my entry into containerizations a bit easier, that road and understanding. So the desire to see what everybody else was using popped me into this wonderful utility and made life a lot easier to adopt containerization.
All right. We'll get to that topic later, because I think there are plenty of us who are keen to know not only your side, but also Neil's side. So, but first, Francesco, what do you think on the edge and how actually Brian defined that? Maybe you have something else in mind?
First of all, I'm not an expert on this topic. I can think about some use cases, maybe for some edge devices. For example, before joining this live stream, I was thinking like that they could be used during a live stream to let, for example, the audience command maybe your own live stream. That would be, for example, a very good use case, because during a live stream you are focused. So maybe you can give this command to someone else. I think there are already some bots for some platforms, but for example, for YouTube, we are lacking a bit of them. I think for Twitch it's better. So now I see a lot of use cases here, because now, for example, I have these lights, but I have to control them by hand. So for example, I should stop talking. So I see some use cases here, since there are many content creators. And of course, having my washing machine, maybe stop it during my live stream, it would be awesome, because sometimes I have that on during the live stream. Not now, but you can hear the sound sometimes. So that will be also a great idea. So it turns down automatically. So maybe I don't know much about the technologies, but I'm following now Brian also on GitHub. So let's see, Nimoko. I'm sorry, but I don't know. I don't have much to share from a technical perspective. I have a Raspberry Pi and an Arduino at home. So this is also, well, let's say I got my hands dirty a bit, but this is where my knowledge stops. I'm sorry.
To be honest, that's kind of similar from my side as well. But still, I see the huge potential in that, automating all the things at the same time, being optimal and effective in transmitting the data or collecting the data, etc., etc. So that's where I think it lies. Neil, what do you see as that edge capability? Is it something that Portainer does already?
Well, kind of. Our background historically has been data center, right? So, my whole technical background, my whole life, my career is as an infrastructure person in the data center. And when Brian came to us initially and suggested that Portainer has a valid use case at the edge, I'm like, what is this thing? I didn't understand it. And to be fair, it's taken me probably 3 years to actually finally understand what the heck the edge actually is and the value edge can bring. But now it's fair to say that I'm all over it. It makes perfect sense now. So it took a while for the use cases to come to fruition. What it actually does, how does it work, what's the value for it, to try and understand it. Everyone automatically, when you say edge, thinks surveillance cameras. That's really what people automatically think about. But outside of that, it's quite challenging to think of other solutions. So like edge in retail makes perfect sense. All of the point of sale machines, everyone's gone to McDonald's or any of the other fast food restaurants and had those touch screen. Taco Bell even have it. The kiosks where we can place your order, and like magic, a few seconds later your order comes out in the kitchen, and a few seconds after that you've got food in your belly. All of this stuff is actually enabled through edge. So edge is actually a game changer for a bunch of things. Technically it's a game changer, but also for the consumers out there, for the ultimate end consumer, it just gives them a far better quality of life. They can do direct engagements.
True.
There are so many companies now who say, we aren't a restaurant chain, we aren't a burger joint, we're actually an IT shop who happens to sell food. That's a claim from, I think, Chick-fil-A. It's a chain. It's a claim from Domino's. All these guys are saying the same thing. You know, they're enabled. They're a tech company who happens to use tech to sell food, and that's all powered by the Edge. So, for me, Edge is a game changer. It's a massive scale, and when you overlay industrial IoT, i.e., old-fashioned SCADA being replaced with IoT, to the Edge conversation, it becomes a monumentally large market.
True. Agree to that 100%.
I have a number of use cases I'd love to add.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Some of my favorites are imagine a delivery robot that takes a package from UPS inside of a city, and then that delivers it directly to your doorstep. There are a number of nodes or computation devices in there that need to make sure that everything is being orchestrated, and imagine Portainer managing these all from a system administrator point of view. Another favorite is imagine having a cluster of drones and you're in a remote area where there is no connectivity for 5G, 4G connectivity, but you scatter the drones to create a mesh and connect one drone at the top of the hill, then to light up a valley. There's another applications. There's another use case that I love, that in vehicles, there are about 5 compute nodes in vehicles. Imagine also a plane has a flying data center. So these are endless edge type venues, if you will, locations running this. And how do you manage these things at scale? That's where Portainer comes in. That's the biggest dilemma, is like, I have 15,000 locations and I'm running 3 small microclusters. I need to be able, 3 nodes at a microcluster at every 15,000 location. How can I see that and deploy and update? This is where the value of Portainer comes in. And again, these are very, very environmental situations where somebody can lift the machine or somebody can pick it up. There's a security risk involved, right? And you can't connect to them. So again, great spot for Portainer to be and help manage this ecosystem.
Yeah, and I think it's important that the actual true definition of edge is actually sporadically connected networking. And you see quite a few edge solutions that are GitOps based or others, and they kind of expect constant connectivity. They expect the edge device to be able to poll and receive updates in real time and automatically self-update and control. That's cool if the device actually has internet connectivity. What happens if it has incredibly sporadic internet connectivity or incredibly high cost, and you don't want the thing using the internet connection all the time? How do you actually send bulk commands down to a device when it's on a base station, when it's back in the office, a whole bunch of things. So how do you bulk transfer these instructions, and then the device can run by itself in the field, disconnected, completely self-contained. That's the true edge use case.
And I'll just add to that there's a certain level of autonomy and trust that we need to have on every edge deployment.
Yep.
Indeed. All right. So our today's big topic is, as you might notice, Portainer and Intel collaboration over some of the edge features, which were developed and then pushed into Portainer's open source product, Portainer Community Edition. I'd say that was fun. That was fun and a challenging journey, but now we have something great. We also have the recorded demo that we're going to discuss. We're going to see that and discuss that today. So bear with us on the live stream. Before we do that, I would want to discuss how actually Portainer and Intel started the collaboration. I know everyone is keen for the answer. As we know, like Portainer is primarily Docker Swarm, Kubernetes management, but to me, it appeared that we didn't focus specifically that much on the edge functionality. So how has that came along? How you thought that Portainer at that time, a data center solution, would be that kind of a great edge solution, which you might want to have the collaboration with at Intel, Brian? I think you're muted.
Before he speaks, I'll actually just say the whole Edge solution we have today fundamentally came out of Brian's brain. So he may not give himself enough credit, but when he first came to us and said, "Hey, I've got this great idea for Portainer," and I'm like, "What are you talking about? This is what?" So it was a real struggle, a mental struggle for a data center person and for myself, like myself, to say, well, how can we be applicable? And Brian's experience in understanding Edge through Intel really helped me see the light and helped me understand the benefits that we can bring. My whole proposition is, unless Portainer can add value to something, don't even do it. So it was like, well, how can we add value to this Edge management? And it was through Brian's guidance that we basically got where we are today. So Brian, over to you.
Thanks, Neil. The reality is when we put labels on Edge and cloud, they really, at the end of the day, they're a bunch of computers clustered together. And where it physically lives on planet Earth makes no difference. Really, truly, the separation is about the wires and the costs associated between transferring data from one place to another, okay? And the way I saw it is, okay, Portainer is a management utility to manage services on a bunch of machines. The issue usually comes down to is that initiating request. How do I connect to said node or devices or cluster? Do I connect initially from the management tool down to the device? Or does the device phone home make an initial request up to me and then establish it? And then yet, I guess we could have said this is one of the defining points of the Edge versus the cloud is the devices in the field have to establish an outbound connection to the controller. We don't want to know all the IP addresses and all the location of those devices. We don't want to maintain a manifest. When your mobile phone changes IP from network, every time you connect, you don't get the same IP address. We have the same problem from an Edge use case. All of those devices and utility pools in a smart city, imagine 20,000 of them, their IP addresses may change. And to maintain a manifest of all those IP addresses from your controller to connect to it that's not scalable, that's problematic. So the alternative is, well, how do you make those devices phone home? And that's the key. They call into a single point. And that's when I saw what Portainer was doing, it was just literally flipping the flow. Instead of Portainer connecting to the devices it managed, make it so that you install something, have it onboard back to Portainer. And you can even run this in the data center this way. You don't have to, but you certainly can. And honestly, the things that we learned from the Edge will soon be applied back into the data center cloud environment, because there's such a level of opportunity to save on the operating costs that you learn to deploy at the Edge that will translate it back into cloud and data center cost savings.
All right. And talking about the history, 3 years ago, did you had that exact vision of where we are today with the Edge capability of Portainer? And how do you actually feel looking at that live product, what we have now?
So very good question. Actually, this was early, I would say 2014. Intel was building hardware and platforms to sort of look at how to manage these Edge use cases. But one thing that was always missing, one ingredient is, normally the folks that we sell to don't really care about what's going on underneath the hood. They want to manage this thing. And that was a missing ingredient. There is a number of technologies that have a front end out there that do very niche little things. And some support this, some support that, and it became very problematic. We started looking at, should we start writing this in-house? And this is before really diving into Portainer. And then sitting there, Portainer released one little feature. It was the agent model. They released the agent model, I think, in 2017, 2018. And that agent model, I looked at it and I said, all we have to do is flip the flow, and then whoa, it opened up the door for the Edge market. So yeah, we needed an ingredient. We thought, well, let's write it ourselves. And we said, no, Portainer's got all this done. Why spend all this money? Let's work with them.
Wow. Awesome. Awesome. So how do you feel that kind of seeing the product, the agent back in the day and seeing what Portainer can do now with the Edge? Is that anyhow market revolutionary? Is that something that no other vendors have, or?
So that's a good question. There are a number of technologies down underneath that support this fleet management model. But I think the genius part that Neil and his team have done, and a shout out to Anthony, of how they've implemented the scaling scenario. So one of our first requests is we need to be able to manage 25,000 devices. To me, of the open source projects that exist out there to become a potential in fleet management, Portainer is one of the only ones that we have tested that is able to scale beyond 1,000 nodes. And we have seen scenarios in 20,000, 25,000, 30,000, and that's a big deal. Yes, there's some still things we need to work out together to close gaps on, but still just to even get there, huge deal. And there are other companies still struggling to even approach this sort of scenario, but they're on their way. They have written some very genius way of being able to manage that many devices and connectivity. And now we have other opportunities here to, help the end user do these things, do these bulk actions in a better way.
All right.
It's actually quite funny, but behind the scenes, we obviously had the engagement with Intel to build the Edge agent and to make the scaling succeed. And it was like a duck on water. On the surface we were good. Under the surface, Anthony was just coding away frantically, having to fundamentally rewrite huge portions of the product to do back-end pagination. Previously all of the pagination was front-end. We had to move to the back-end. A lot of our search functionality in application was searching the front-end raw data. We had to move it to back-end calls. We had to make sure that as the agents were coming, we're checking in and registering. We weren't completely smashing the database and having to make sure that things were cached and written in all different ways. And it was like, wow, there was so much code had to be redone and all this stuff. But as we thought we did it right. We did the scaling test and we're like, oh, we hit barriers. So we're live coding at nighttime back in the hotel. In the morning, we're back at Intel testing again. Nighttime coding, daytime testing, and to finally get it to actually pass those tests, those scaling tests was awesome. And not nonstop since then, enhancing, improving, tweaking, and it's cool.
While they were frantic or feeling like that was a problem, I wasn't worried about the database schema and efficiency. I was more concerned about the connectivity problem, because there are scenarios where, depending if the moon is in the right phase and the rotation of the Earth, that device is going to connect. And it's going to disappear for a while. And sometimes those are latent. And the one thing I wanted to make sure was that this type of agent would be capable of checking in when it needed to and be able to handle said sort of satellite remote connectivity. Because if we can solve that, everything above that makes it that much easier to function. And I knew that they could solve the database schema efficiency thing. That's just an evolution of tweaking software. And there's still more tweaking to be done, and it will get there. But in their current state, they're able to scale pretty well out of the box.
Indeed. Just for the record, Anthony is a co-founder of Portainer, initial developer of that, and I think a lot of code belonged to him still. That was not rewritten in the end, and now he is taking care of the product kind of where we are leaning next. All right. So Brian, one more coming your way. What are the use cases that you see which are enabled by that feature that we've developed now?
The agent or the new stuff that we just like
the new stuff which enabled, like back in the day that was not possible, and now it is how we do that now.
Well, my first every use case. So here's one of the things that I think that people don't understand or they take for granted is the person who actually has to go out and install these devices in a concert venue, in a utility pole, or inside a kitchen or a fast food restaurant don't realize the amount of effort and time it takes in the driving and that to scale deploy all that stuff. There's an extreme cost to that thing, to that whole actual installation. There's also a learning curve to understanding software, and usually the folks that are the installers don't really have the patience or care to know everything about what orchestration and these manageability fancy words are, right? So the idea of able to separate the knowledge from the installer to the knowledge of an edge operator is very key, and it helps with the operating, the OpEx. And in this case, one of the fundamental pieces for the onboarding a device, the FDO piece, it really simplifies that process of being able to say, I want to join this said piece of hardware with Portainer in a management fashion. If you get everybody involved in the pipeline of being able to order a device with some software already pre-done on there, with some trust in mind, and being able to decide, yes, this device belongs to this group of management and Portainer, it's a huge, huge cost savings. And in fact, if I've got right now in front of me, I've got to deploy at 5,000 locations, the mere fact of me having to onboard that device to simply tie in, pull down, and repeat of tying a uniqueness with Portainer, that's a huge cost to sit there and repetitively do that. Now, FDO is a function that makes it near zero touch. And what I mean near, it is zero touch, but somebody physically self-install it, screw it in, put it up on the utility pole. But the point is they can fire and forget. Hook the power up, put the Ethernet up, it does its job. They walk away, go to the next utility pole, on. They're taken out of the process to actually have to call up the guy, hey, I'm about to join this, or do anything. They don't have to have some prior art knowledge of how to use Portainer. It simply just says, I'm going to do my one thing and I'm going to do it well. And the edge operators start seeing all these devices start coming online, and he starts grouping them.
Perfect.
So
perfect.
FDO, big win. Portainer being able to put that on there, and that really is one of the very few features that Intel has that. Well, I shouldn't say few. There are a number of out-of-band things. What I want to say is, what I was trying to say is, it's one of those open source pieces that people can take advantage of. And I know that Neil has some plans to really grow that in their enterprise side of things. But to begin with, just as a geek or a nerd, being able to even do this with my own home projects immediately and not have to go through this process, big win. And yeah, sorry, I'm rambling here. But the other piece you want me to go into, the out-of-band manageability piece, or did you have another question?
No, I think we'll cover that in a sec. Okay. I'd also say that maybe next collaboration or next partner that we got to invite should be Boston Dynamics. So then people shouldn't be forced to go and tweak and put the power on. Instead, the robots could do that. And that would be another fantastic video. And a fantastic collab for all of us. Alrighty. Neil, if you on your side, what do you think on that whole collaboration with Intel? How was that from your side? How that all started for you?
Yeah, so these two new features were really important for us. You know, we'd obviously had our first iteration of the Edge solution out there in the market, and it was very good at managing containers at the edge, but that was really its limited scope. And we had so much interest in that solution. And as we're going through with the customer's internal expert team, they're saying, okay, cool. So Docker crashes or the host fails. How does Portainer help me? And it's like, well, yeah, we can't. They're like, so you mean we have to put someone in a helicopter and fly them to the middle of the outback, or to the middle of the rainforest, or to this dam? Yeah, this hydro dam in the middle of nowhere. You mean we have to actually still send someone there to actually restart Docker or power off and power on the device? Or I'm like, yeah. And they're like, that doesn't sound very, very, very edgy. So that's kind of rubbish. And so, yeah, already I was getting feedback from the market that's saying just being able to deploy and manage the applications at Edge is kind of only half the solution. So to actually have a full solution, you actually need to completely be able to manage the device. So you need to be able to console into the device, get a KVM, reboot it, go into the BIOS, have a look at things, power it on, power it off, actually manage the physical device just in case something like Docker crashes or Kubernetes crashes and you have to remediate without having to send someone there. If you have to send someone there, you're only kind of halfway through. So that's kind of my thinking on that one. The zero touch device onboarding is very cool when you start thinking about retail. And if you start thinking about the big box retailers especially and the fast food companies who need to have hundreds of thousands of devices out there managed or hundreds of thousands of shops managed, how do you do that on scale? The cost to roll it out is phenomenal. How do you minimize that cost? How do you have a single turnkey solution? So this latest collab with Intel, in my view, actually rounded out the Edge solution for us. It gave us the actual top and tail. We'd already had a really good, robust application management, but now to be able to do out-of-band device management and even now device onboarding, that's a fully rounded solution.
Gotcha. So it shows me that it's really a game changer then for both for consumers and for enterprises who decide to adopt any of the Intel devices which have that technology in there, and they use Portainer at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Cool. Was that always a decision for Portainer to get into the Edge or Edge kind of world of devices?
It wasn't. As I said at the start, my background is data center and infrastructure, and that's where I naturally gravitate towards because that's where I feel the most comfortable. And the Edge only really started to become interesting as we started to understand the use cases. I'm kind of an old-fashioned brain. I like to understand how will customers use this and how can we help them use this tech. So once we kind of understood the use cases, like, okay, I get it now. Click. I can see how we can help. I can see how we can solve a problem. After all, I am still just an engineer. And I naturally want to solve problems. So when I can see a use case for the technology, and I can in my mind I'm saying, okay, that's cool, but we have that's going to have these challenges. How can we address those? So once my eyes were opened, then absolutely it made sense, and I was like, right, let's go. This thing is a no-brainer. The containers are the enabler. Containers are what makes Edge usable. What makes it make sense. It's very easy to propagate applications from data center to Edge, and it's a natural synergy to say, well, I've got applications, I want to deploy them. I actually don't care where they are, just deploy them anywhere. And so data center to Edge makes sense.
Mm-hmm. I have another one, which might have two sides of that question. So why did Portainer add these features, even though they are kind of different from the container management? Is that the combination of that which makes the whole product to be a game changer? The combination of being able to manage containers and at the same time manage the device?
Yeah,
or something?
Without these two new features, this FDO and EAMT control, the out of band and the zero touch device onboarding, in my view, we did have half a solution for the Edge. So, a device out there in the middle of nowhere, if it crashes, the whole concept of someone has to physically go there is just ludicrous. It just doesn't make sense. Yep. There's no way that you could do that. There's no way that Edge would be able to be genuinely adopted if every time something failed, someone had to physically get in a car or plane or whatever and go there. It is nonsensical. So we had half a solution. So now with this one, I believe we have a full solution, and that's why even though this on the surface may not make sense, Portainer, you are an application for managing container for managing containers. This is nothing to do with containers, yes, but it actually without this, the solution is actually half baked, and it's very hard to make containers at the edge usable without this kind of device support. So that's why I was so interested to get these features in and now out.
Mm-hmm. That's understandable.
Hey, Dimko, can I add something to real quick?
Yes, definitely. Jump in, bro.
One of the things that people I separate from containers and physical nodes, the reality is that the thing that ties you to management is a piece of software running in memory, right? It could be a container. Well, hey, I have a piece of hardware connected to that single running container. Look, I can start managing it, right? You don't have to separate them, because the reality is containers are running on some VM or single node. There's no need to have a separation, whether I'm managing containers or not. I can tie a container to a one-to-one relationship with a physical node. It shouldn't be separated, is my point. You can and you don't have to. I mean, they can run together.
Mm-hmm. All right. Francesco, we have some of the comments coming in, and I'm just curious, do you see any of the interest in the edge technologies or in IoT kind of use cases within your following, or what do you see on Twitter?
I think that these kind of technologies, they always attract some people, because you can actually show them. You can have some real use cases. Brian was talking before about some very good use cases, and they are usually also related to movement, because like now we are sitting in front of our cameras. So maybe something related to movement in any ways. For example, like live streams when you move some source, maybe engage your audience while you are not just sitting in front of your computer. So I'm thinking about from a content creator point of view. I don't know, Brian, if you agree or not, but I see something there. So that's something more very engaging. It will be awesome also to do something, some in-person event. I'm looking forward for do something like that, and that would be really awesome. So for
That's
sure,
good.
they are. Yeah. Okay, but I'm glad that I said something which sounds sense. But it's and I think it's the community aspect is something that you should never underestimate, because at the end of the day, yeah, we talk about technologies, but it's always about people and people who use this kind of things and technologies. So it's always about that. So I think that will be a crucial part. I'm currently not active, so maybe Brian, you can also suggest me some communities maybe that I can join, take a look. Currently, I'm not active in any of them, so I can't give a feedback about any edge community, but I'm sure that there are some of them, and so maybe I think it would be nice also to create or join an existing community, maybe create some project together, because yeah, I think this kind of collaboration, it's multiplied 10 times for like these edge devices. I don't know if I've answered to you, Dimko.
Yes, it's great. Do you have anything to add, Brian?
No, I love the angle that he's bringing. So absolutely. Folks tend to have a use case in mind that they would like to bring out to the world, and the one thing that seems to be forgotten is the part, well, now I've got this great idea, now how do I get it out there and manage and just deploy it? And that's really where Portainer comes in to help glue that point together. Yeah, always start with something that you want to try, a DIY sort of situation, but a lot of good innovation has come out of a bunch of community effort to help this edge market. Start with the use case.
Cool. Got it. Let me actually move us to the demo. We have a pre-recorded demo of the functionality that was developed in that collaboration between Intel and Portainer, and best believe that functionality is bloody awesome to see in action. Before we move on to that, I want to remind you that we still have the swag, and we are happy to give that away for nice questions, and you might send those to the Twitter account. Just make a tweet and tag portainer.io or portainer.io in that tweet, and we'd be happy to answer those, and also see the questions coming into the YouTube channel. So that is valid as well. Okay, Neil, why don't you introduce the demo for us?
Sure. So what we're going to see in the demo, and again, we went with pre-recorded because it obviously requires hardware, and it's a bit difficult to get all the hardware aligned in a live stream. So recorded is the way it's going to work. What we're going to do here is see the two features in action. The first is the OpenAMT, which is the lights out device management. So you'll see the ability to onboard a device into the out-of-band management system, to get a remote KVM, which is a physical KVM onto that device, and you can see the options available for power on, power off. Then we're going to see the FTO, which is the zero-touch device onboarding, and see how easy it is to actually onboard a brand new device into Portainer using the FTO. So that device will be connected, it boots, it installs an operating system, installs Docker, installs the agent, and connects to Portainer. So you'll see how that works as well. So they're both of the demos there combined.
All right. I think we can just jump right into that. Can you help us out, Andrew, on that? Alrighty.
See you on my YouTube chat.
Yep.
Hello, Matt from Portainer here.
We should see
Today I'm going to show you how to set up OpenAMT and FTO on the Edge in 2.11.1. First, we start by enabling the Edge Compute settings. This is now located under the Settings menu as a submenu called Edge Compute. You'll note two new settings here, Enforce Environment ID and Trust on First Connect. I'll talk about those later on in the video. Let's first start with OpenAMT. You can deploy that through the App Templates menu in here. You'll need to fill in the details, take note of the password quality requirements, and then click to deploy the stack. I have already deployed it previously, so I'm going to skip that step. After you've deployed the MPS server or the OpenAMT stack, you will need to set up your Edge device from the Edge Devices menu. Again, I've already set up the Intel NUC that we have as an Edge device. Now that's running, but we can't use OpenAMT yet. There's an extra step. So we need to go to the Settings menu, go into Edge Compute, and turn on OpenAMT. Now, I previously filled this in, so I'm just going to save the settings there. And then we go back to the Edge Devices menu, and you'll see an extra button there associated with OpenAMT. What we need to do is we select the device, and then we click the Associate with OpenAMT button. So let's do that now. And that's succeeded. And now we can perform some out-of-band actions. Let's connect to the KVM session. And then we have it. So we can interact with that and behave like a desktop. And there we have it. And to disconnect, we just click the X. There's some other actions you can perform as well from that same menu, so you can power on, power off, or restart. Now the standard way of adding Edge devices in Portainer is from this menu here. You would click Add Device, you would give it a name, and enter in the Portainer server URL, and you click Add. And that would take you to this page here. You would take one of these commands, for example this one here, and then you would copy and paste that into the terminal on the device, and it would connect up to Portainer. Now I'll show you how to onboard devices using FTO. To do that, we need to deploy the FTO stack template. Next step is to switch it on in the Edge Compute settings menu. And now let's onboard a device. Click Add Device. Select the ownership voucher, which may be more than one. Give the device a name. And the URL for the server. And select our device profile and click Save. Now, because we had Trust on First Connect off, we need to choose to trust this device. And then wait for the device to onboard. And you can see now that it's connected. This concludes the device onboard process. Now, I would like to point out that this is a demonstration. The device that we onboarded today is actually a Docker and Kubernetes and not a real device. This concludes the device onboard process. Now, I would like to point out that this is a demonstration. The device that we onboarded today is actually a Docker and Kubernetes and not a real device. Lastly, I wanted to talk to you about the two new settings that I mentioned earlier in the video. These are found under the Settings menu in the Edge Compute section. The first one, Enforce Environment ID. What that does is it ensures that the ID used by the Portainer agent when connecting to Portainer already exists in the database, and if it does not, it will not be able to connect. The second, Trust on First Connect, means that when the device is first set up in Portainer, or appears in the list as an Edge device, it's not trusted, and you would actually have to select the device and choose to trust it. If you switch this on, that means that the device, when it first appears or is seen by Portainer, it will be immediately trusted. More details about these settings can be found in the online documentation. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, please provide them in the comments below.
All right, Andrew, bring us on.
We're back.
Awesome, awesome. All right, that was amazing. What did I just see is that no matter what happens with your operating system, you can still control the device and operate it from Portainer. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Yep.
All right. So
no matter where
on
you
Intel,
are.
on Intel hardware specifically.
Yes, indeed. So if you have like a blue screen of that, still you're able to operate device or boot that, restart, whatever, as an Edge device, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep, and just to be clear, it's an Intel device with a CPU that is vPro enabled. So if you're looking at the little sticker, everyone's got the little Intel sticker on their machine. If it says vPro underneath it, then you can use those features. So the i5, i7 vPro enabled.
Awesome, awesome. Should we step in to the questions? I bet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right into them. Andrew, we have one question from the channel. I hope I read it right. It seems like the Edge devices need to run on Docker containers, which needs plenty of resources. Am I right? Any plan to support other container runtimes? I bet this goes for you, Neil.
I can answer that. So right now, our Edge support is for Docker, Docker Swarm, and Kubernetes. Believe it or not, we are currently working on adding support for Nomad as well. So hopefully very, very soon you'll see initial Edge support for Nomad coming out of the gate as well. So yes, absolutely. That is a separate announcement that we'll be making very soon. So that one's a little bit cat out of the bag, but absolutely. Yeah, an Edge device is incredibly resource constrained, and we need to have a runtime out there that consumes the least resources, leaving more resources available to actually run the applications. Having a huge overhead to run just to run containers out there is inefficient.
Indeed. The other one that we have from the chat from Praya. Again, hope I read it right. How can we use Portainer effectively for Docker container management, and what role will it play in monitoring of applications? A bit out of the Edge topic, but still, do you want to have a take on that one, Neil?
Yeah, so obviously Portainer is more than just a deployment tool. We also like to help you monitor, manage and triage your applications, and that exists no matter where an application is deployed. So, already with the Edge device, you can deploy your applications en masse to 20,000 devices concurrently if you so desire through the Edge Stacks feature. You still have the ability to go into the dashboard, click on an endpoint and take interactive management control of that device securely. So we establish a reverse tunnel back from the device to Portainer, and we can now manage that device interactively and triage the application interactively as well. So we have both the ability to deploy applications en masse, but also singularly connect to a device to triage.
I'd like to add something to that. If you think of Portainer and you compare it to some of the cloud service providers, they'll provide you the tools to provide telemetry and logging information and pull that up. But if you're writing a specific application that runs on it and you have specific needs and logging and information to be pulled from that, you as the person writing that application will have to hone in or take the ingredients and tools that have been provided to you to extract that specific information for that application. I see Portainer as the fundamental plumbing to provide that capability, but beyond that, for multi-tenancy and multiple use cases, the application, they have specific needs to pull particular data out. That should be up to the application, but you can use the plumbing, which Portainer is, to help you get that information to you.
Mm-hmm. There is another question from Chanel. I hope, again, I read it right. One of the biggest challenges on Edge devices is to isolate networks and create ZTNA-based solutions. Is there anything that with Portainer and Intel are thinking about? I hope that one goes to you, Brian.
Yeah,
a bit of both. A bit of both, right? And by the way, sorry, Brian, for your answer, ZTNA zero trust network access.
Okay,
right.
Got it.
So, excellent question. This person knows a bit about Edge and some of the areas that are gaps at the edge, and security being one of them. One of the key things I think. In collaboration of Portainer, and what Intel's trying to bring is this whole secure boot, fully attested boot model to binaries being running at or data at rest or in memory. We as Intel try to provide capabilities to provide security, and beyond that, also as you go up the stack with the security model, with the networking. So yes, there are a number of projects going on inside Intel to provide these capabilities, and they're evolving. Not all of them have been released yet, but they will be coming out. And I would say this year and next year, you'll start seeing many different areas involving in security, container runtime security, network security, and even infrastructure as code in terms of being programmable networking, etc.
That sounds.
We're actually doing some work with some other, some of our Edge customers who are using us in the industrial IoT space, and they're wanting a lot more security controls around the agent communications and using cert-based mutual auth to even validate each device is who they say they are before we even do our agent-based security as well. So, in IIoT, security is absolutely paramount. So we're working very hard with these customers to bolster security around that area as well.
The S letter, as it says in IoT, stands for security, so must be very secure environment in the end. Francesco, I think this gives us overall a huge potential for any of these self-hosted projects. Is there a potential for any kind of home users? Should we expect devices randomly waking up at our homes as we start to play around with the Portainer and Intel chips in there? I think you're muted, mate. We didn't get that joke.
Yeah. No, I was muted. Okay, because someone muted me. Sorry. No, I mean, I hope not, but maybe I hope that we really keeps having control. Jokes aside, I think it's something exciting, because having physical control on machine can be nice. I think it's especially if you can try to automate that. I see that we are still in an early stage, so I don't think like clear use cases. I think this is also something good, because so we can. Someone can jump on with some very good idea. So, for example, this is why, for example, we are doing this kind of live streams, and maybe we can collaborate on some communities. So you can just share our ideas, try to do some projects together. It's not just about you in your house alone trying to fix something, but maybe it should be more like I see this like an opportunity for some collaborative projects. This I think is one of the best use cases, because I don't know, when you put some people in a room, even a virtual room, something good usually happens. So I see this more as a collaborative and less than just a one person project. So it could be funny, but I think that we need like different people, which maybe it can take care about different aspects. For example, security, the new Edge stuff, some default stuff. So yes, so I think there is place for everyone to create some very cool projects with Edge computing and Portainer, of course. I think that Portainer is here also to simplify the process. This is one of the things that I like the most. So this simplification, it's because I think we all agree also, Brian, that edge computing is not that easy. It's not something that you just start. So this is one of the reasons I think why Edge and Portainer, they work so well together, because Portainer is simplifying and Edge it's on the edge. Sorry for the pun word.
I'm going to quote Neil. One of my favorite his lines is that humanizes the experience.
Yep.
Indeed. Francesco, do you see Intel and Portainer being kind of on the right track for Edge end-to-end management kind of tool?
Absolutely. I think that something very good can come up. Probably we should make maybe another live stream in some months, and let's see maybe the evolution. So I'm super curious maybe to see the evolution like in months, because sometimes, I don't know, when we talk about technology, sometimes you make a video and then after 6 months that's totally changed, or maybe there will be something super advanced. So maybe I'm curious about maybe make, I don't know, like 6 months later. I don't know if everyone agree. I agree.
Yeah,
we can try to make like
that's interesting though.
Episode 2, and that would be more weighted than the Amazon Lord of the Rings series probably.
I think next time we have this kind of a chat, I'll just grab a ton of Intel devices. We'll put that right in front of me, like here, and you'll start booting all of them one by one. Yeah. And this one has Ubuntu, this has Windows, this has whatever else.
I'll be doing it from my desk while you watch it.
Yeah, the real question is why aren't we doing this today? So this is the real question.
Too complicated, too complicated. All right. I don't think that we have any more questions. Do we? I don't think so. So you know what, guys, I'll wrote you to the blog that we have in Portainer. It is solely about our latest community edition release, which has all of the edge computing features inside, and it changes the edge. So the link will get into that chat in the YouTube comments, and you'd be able to check it out. Meanwhile, on the swag side, both of the questions, so Chanel and Praya, they receive the swag, and we'll get in touch with you for any of the shipping details. So please make sure to respond to someone named either Portainer IO or Andrew James, because that brings good stuff your way. And still, I have a few questions, and this would be quick. Questions from my side. Oh, it seems that we have another one from the chat. And I think this is particularly interesting. Do you see a lot of demand for Kubernetes at the edge? And I think this goes both for Neil and to Brian, because they're gritting so much
question. Confrontational question. The industry would have me answer, yes, absolutely. The edge is all about Kubernetes. That's how we would answer this. The reality is that edge, I think, has two very distinct use cases. It has the network edge, which are basically a bunch of high-powered devices in remote data centers. For those particular environments, Kubernetes makes perfect sense. Where you're talking about a single board computer, a little micro device, an Atom type CPU in a vehicle, in a device, Kubernetes there is pretty difficult. The way that you manage devices through Kubernetes makes sense, but running Kubernetes on that device is tough. Now, Brian, go.
So refine that. The implementation could use some honing. The Kubernetes design pattern is definitely needed for any compute device at scale, but there could be some work from the Kubernetes side of things. Now, let me step back a bit. Ultimately, our customers want to use Kubernetes because they've written collateral for Kubernetes, but at the end of the day, how it gets orchestrated and delivered, as long as it is conformed to some Kubernetes standard, they actually could care less what it's sort of orchestration under the hood or how it was delivered, as long as they didn't have to uplift and change all the collateral they have written. So I think Portainer is in a position to sort of help steer the market in terms of being able to address the smaller device, IoT device ecosystem. And I think along with Intel, trying to strategize and make that happen, that's the key point. And if Kubernetes starts making or a number of community folks start forking or contributing to Kubernetes to make it so that it works on small devices, awesome. That's a great design pattern, a great win for a lot of our customers.
And I think this is a great question as well. So Daniel will also get the piece of swag. And thanks for giving such a broad and wide answer to that. I think that's it from the questions. So the last minute questions are done. I have still one which would touch all of us. And this is on Portainer and Intel future public plans. What we can announce now. Is there anything that you guys are planning to do, and what is next?
Go, Brian.
Yeah, there is definitely a future and more ideas and more things. And I would say it's around how do we scale, how do we enable more of the ecosystem and other underlying orchestrators. There are definitely security places, but yes, there's more to come, more things to show, more technologies besides vPro we'll want to enable and manage devices from an Intel and Portainer point of view.
Yeah, and from my perspective, it's definitely a scaling thing. Now that we've unlocked access to a whole bunch of really cool use cases, those use cases are scale that is, in my eyes, beyond comprehension. And so how do we make Portainer scale up into the millions of devices as opposed to thousands or hundreds of thousands of devices? How do we scale into the millions of devices? And then how do we support devices that truly are disconnected 99% of the time? So how do we do that? So better support for async controls. That's kind of where I'm thinking.
And I'll tease one more thing. I really think or believe, based on certain things, that everything inside that we see in the future as the edge, or even our desktop PCs, our laptops, our phones, will become sort of edge devices. Even data centers will become part of this sort of nervous system or protocol that gets generated or created, where we simply our switches and our routers and our Alexas and our different things that we plug in the home network become part of a central nervous system of compute. And part of one of those fundamental things that was going to be needed is, yes, an orchestrator plus what Portainer provides. And I see a future where everything becomes visible. So as you and I are talking and we have this sort of IoT experience right now and certain object detections going on, it might see a different device on your home network as a better accelerator to start sending the computation over there, and it starts being more fluid. And you as a consumer will buy things like Lego blocks, and they'll be modular, and you'll just plug them into your architecture, and they become a usable thing without thinking about it. You just have this feeling of trust as you start deploying and plugging this architecture together.
That is the future I desire so much. This is the future that I think would make things so much optimal and so much easier for the end consumer, for anyone who is sitting in front of a PC and I wouldn't have this rumble whole time picking out the microphone, which one works better today. Instead, it is able to figure that out automatically for me. Yep. Same with all of the cameras, with all of the lightning. And I think for any kind of production scenarios with the video, TV, whatever, it makes so much sense. So if that is something that could be done automatically and still is controllable from any kind of a management system.
So if I could leave with anything, it would be that, I think Intel's done a great job, me even as a consumer, is that we take for granted just turning it on. We expect it to work, and it does. And so much happens in just that fraction of a second of power on that is built off the backs of many, many, many engineers over the years. Now, if we could up-level that a bit and take for granted just the experience of software and these devices working together. And I've said this before, but I really believe we need to have this sort of trust in these devices to even help mankind to propel them to go into the future. And if we want to get to Mars, we're going to rely on robotics and autonomy, and we need to have certain levels of trust. We want this to happen, we have to start building these into our foundation. And I think we have an opportunity to propel us and help us do that. And and an ingredient for that is Portainer. An ingredient is Intel as we pave the new way for our future.
It's actually intriguing. In a non-Intel piece, I saw an announcement from Raspberry Pi Foundation, and they now have a internet boot. So you can actually take a completely blank Raspberry Pi off the shelf, plug it into power and Ethernet, and it'll boot across the internet from their boot servers and let you go and configure the base OS. And that is amazing when you start.
That'll be coming out, by the way. From an Intel point of view, we have that playing around with that too.
There you go.
Yep. So literally, you'll be able to.
It's a very, very, very cool feature.
At the pole, exactly. At the utility pole, you'll be able to re-flash target machines without ever driving to that device. You could change it from Windows one day and Ubuntu the next day.
Yeah.
Yeah, about the Mars thing that you were saying, like if you would have said this like 10 years ago, probably everybody in the live stream and in the chat would have laughed. now maybe we have not laughed because we don't know. Maybe we still need 20 years, 30 years, but maybe this can be helpful for real. So like I don't know, in 25 years, someone will say, "Oh, they said this in that live stream on Portainer." Like,
and this would get quoted in Wikipedia.
Yeah. But I do have a dream that there's some service, central nervous system protocol that becomes a standard that you simply just plug everything in, you know. And I'm sure somebody else had this dream many times, but as this age, we're helping it come to fruition, really.
You know, what I just thought that it is such a great time to be alive and be a part of that kind of a transformation, be a part of that process of simplifying things, of getting the extra abilities for the use cases. That is the great time to be an engineer, to have that kind of a mindset of a creator. So I'm really happy that all of us share the same kind of mind, and our followers and our viewers in the chat. I'm so happy that you guys are here and you're creating that. On that note, I would ask you, any of you, if you have any of the closing words before we shut down. Neil?
Grab the software, have a play. I say the best way to get familiar with these new features is to have a play. So it's out there. It's out in the community. If you have some hardware with vPro enabled, I encourage you to explore.
Awesome. Francesco?
Yeah, I just want to say that first of all, thank you, Dimko, an amazing live stream. Thank you, Dimko, Andrew, Neil, and Brian. If you have any idea, you can also hit me up on Twitter if you have like a serious idea. If you have like an idea for a project, you can send me a DM. My DMs are open, so please send your project, your idea, and we'll discuss about that. Just want to say this. I'm very open. The problem is that I get kind of a lot of DMs, but I'll try to read them all. So yes, just this, and let's see what will happen. And good luck, everyone. The stream has been awesome.
Thanks, sir. And Brian?
Well, I'd like to say, have fun, everybody. Try the software out. Give feedback, please. We can only make it better if we hear back from you. Please provide ideas and enjoy. There's so much to do here. There's DIY. Try to get this into your hands and play. I like using it personally as well. So enjoy.
Thanks, sir. I'll also invite you, Andrew, if you have anything to add.
I just want to add, if you're in the YouTube channel, I put a link to the Portainer Slack. So if you want to keep talking about Edge with anyone here, just join the Slack channel and yeah, keep sharing with us what you're working on.
Cool. And there is a closing note for me as well. Thanks, everyone. And that discussion was a great time and a great experience for me, and I hope for every viewer and for you guys. I'm glad that we are able to not only do the work, but also talk the talk. Not only the development side, which is extremely hard work, all of the planning, all of the architecture, still we are able to show the world what we've created. Great extra gratitude I want to express to all of the people who actually worked to create this feature: developers, QAs, product owners. You guys rock, and this work is so valuable once it comes to a big picture. That now you can achieve some of the use cases with that. Either that would be running the data center, or that would be the smart lighting system, or that would be a rocket to Mars, whatever. This is lit. Subscribe to our YouTube channels, our viewers. There is also a great interview with Brian that my colleague Sav took a while ago, and this interview is great indeed. Hope the link will get into the chat. And now follow me, follow Andrew, follow Neil, follow Brian, follow Francesco. All of us, we are just open and really happy to get connected with all of you. We also have the community page in Portainer, and the link for that would go into the comments as well. This page has all of the Portainer communities all over the world, either that is Reddit, LinkedIn, either that is YouTube, Discord, Slack. We got it. Follow us and join all of the communities. And we have a marketing campaign for you, which is Take 5. Special campaign, you can get the enterprise edition of Portainer for your own use, up to 5 nodes for free. And that is bloody awesome, I'd say. So make sure to check it out. The link will also get into there. And the next event is the other months. So keep in touch, follow us, and you'll get all of the updates about Portainer and its latest capabilities. And also what we plan to do is exposing you guys to some of the best practices in the DevOps world, so you can become better engineers with Portainer and with Intel, I suspect. All right, leave a like, and thanks everyone. That was a great pleasure and a great time.
Nice.